I've just completed taking the still photos outside where there's no shade because I view the vehicle with as much natural lighting as possible, and because what I'm checking for is any shade difference between the panels, blemishes, and then what's nice about it having an enclosed area now too is I'm getting a different kind of lighting, which sometimes will show other blemishes that maybe I wouldn't necessarily see being out in the sun because of the glare, right? So far, nothing's crazy has jumped out at me so far. What I'll be using is an electromagnetic paint meter now. So I'm going to do a walk around. I'm going to point out any cosmetic blemishes that I may have seen while doing the walk around. And then we're going to do paint meter measurements as well. What's important about the paint meter measurements is that we're going to check for any signs of repaint, rework, or use of body filler. So if we specifically get a reading of 19.7, that's an indication of body filler. On a factory paint job, typically anywhere between 4 to 6 thousandths of an inch, I would say is within specs. If we see a painted panel, it'd be like high 8s or 9s, somewhere around there. Or if an area has been polished too much or color sanded, we'll get like a really low reading, a 2, a 1, or even less. That could be a sign of rework or it's been polished too much. So let's go ahead and just dive right on in. Looking at the front bumper areas, something I always check because this is what's susceptible to the bumps and bruises, parking out in the parking lot. So nothing obvious is jumping out at me here. I always like to tap on the headlight lenses, right? I check for cloudiness. That looks pretty good. I still need to test the operation, and I need to analyze the body panel gaps when I'm back at the desk. Also looking at the chrome on the front grille, looks like it's in decent shape there, right? Grille nice and intact. Okay, good. And I'm just picking up on some dust here. So you see some smudges, that's just the dust. Again, the lens securely installed, and I don't see any cloudiness. Okay, same here. So far looking pretty good. Let's start doing the paint meter measurements, and I like to comment on the condition of the paint as well. So when I run my hand across the paint, it's real coarse, right? I'm not gonna do it too much because one, we can see the dust already. So it definitely needs a nice polish, right, to really improve the quality of the paint and bring out more luster. So let's start with those readings. 5.5, 4.5, 5, 5. Okay, so far so good. Left fender, 5.5, 4, 4.5. Right. Don't see any cosmetic blemishes coming out so far. Looking at the left wheel well area, I always like to capture this on video. One, so I like to review it as well. But I'm just checking for any type of debris or damage as a result of the wheel running over something, and then it's a good shot of the strut tower assembly. And looking at the backside here, I don't see any obvious issues coming out. Okay. Also looking at the tire sidewall, I don't see any gashes. And no damage there. The DOT on this one here, I can't decode it to let you know what the date of manufacture is, but I know that the tire size is stamped here somewhere, and I took a picture of it. So I've got that already. Looking at the rim, chrome looks decent, and then I always like to get a shot of the brake pad if I can. Right, so we can see how that's wearing. See if I can get a better shot here somewhere. There we go. That looks like there's plenty of material there. Also, lying down here, I get a side panel view of the vehicle. What we're checking for here is any signs of waviness, dings, or dents that you wouldn't typically see when looking dead on or straight at it. And I kind of just mess with the angle a little bit here to see if anything comes out. And I'm not seeing anything obvious now. Also, looking at the outside mirror, this is susceptible to scratches and scuffs. I like to tap these as well because they get hit, but it looks like it's pretty secure. Windshield, don't see any chips or cracks or any signs of delamination. I've got a still photo of the public VIN, and then I take this opportunity of getting a shot of the upper dash just to look for cosmetic imperfections or workmanship issues. So I'll just do a quick little scan, and I still look at it once I'm inside of the vehicle. I'll be checking the operation of the windshield wipers, make sure those wipers work and they don't leave any streaks. So let's go with the left door. 4.5, 5. Typically just taking 2 readings per panel is enough, but I like to go overboard. 4, 5, So far, it's looking pretty consistent across the board. Nice. I also like to check the this little area right here. I've seen some cars where there literally has gouge marks in there just from the fingernail, so that looks good, as well as the rear door. Let's get the roof readings. 4.5, 6. Okay. Also, while I'm here, I like to see how the glass fits, and I'll be checking the operation. Right. I really like to get the paint meter readings because, as you watch on the news, sometimes they like to stand on roofs as a platform when they're protesting. So we want to make sure this wasn't used for those purposes there. Okay, 5. I forgot if I got these rear doors. 4.5, 5. Good. Quarter panel. 5, 6. 4.5. Let's do the left rear wheel well area. And while I'm scanning the wheel well, I'm actually looking at the tires and the rims, so that way if I see something, I know to jump to it right away. Looks pretty good. I don't see any obvious damage to the sidewall of the tire. Rims, chrome condition looks pretty good. And rotors, I don't see any signs of excess wear or gouging. Or gouges, I should say. And let's get a shot of that brake pad. Okay, and then let's do a side panel view. So I really work off the reflections, the trees, the asphalt, the painted lines. If we see any distortion on the lines, that's an indication of some unevenness. But at that point, it's pretty minor if we have to try to find it that way. Looking at the rear bumper, let's give it a couple of taps here. This looks pretty good. Typically I see scratches as it being the loading area. Lenses are nicely secured, don't see any cracks. Good. Here's a view of the roof. And also when I look at the rear windows, I'm checking for chips, scratches, the lamination. But also now I look at the defroster lines. I want to make sure that none of them have been damaged, especially after, let's say if aftermarket tint has been applied and it's been removed. If these lines get damaged, the whole system is actually rendered useless, or at least the window is, as far as its operation, because it's a break in the circuit. I'll be checking the lights still, but moving on here, it looks like it's got the parking distance control, so I'll need to verify that as well. Oh, let's get the trunk readings. 5.5, 4.5. Right quarter panel, 4.5. Okay. The fuel filler area. I always make sure the pigtail is always there and cap is there. So that's nice, a nice fit there. Little side panel view. Okay. And then the right rear wheel area. Same as before. We're just looking for any signs of impact. Okay. So far looking good. Sidewalls of the tires, don't see any obvious damage there. Chrome looks decent, and let's get a shot of the brake pad. All right, so I can see that looks pretty good. Again, I'm going to analyze the gap still, so I won't even comment on that yet. No scratches here. Glass looks decent. Door 5, 4, 5. Okay. Right door 4.5, 5. Looks good here. The smoothness I feel here, I wish I'd felt on the rest of the car, but if you want a nice example, this is the way it should feel if you were to rub your hands in there. Okay. Outside mirror, good. Here's a view of the windshield from the right side and of the dash. Too much of a glare going on right now, so I won't even bother moving on with that. Fender, right side 4, 4.5, 4.5, 5. Right front wheel well area. I'll move a little quicker here. And then try to get as much of that strut assembly as possible. What's kind of nice is I take photos, I look at it visually while I'm here, and I've got the video, so I'm actually capturing it 3 times. So if there is something that I missed on the first pass, then I got a second chance, and then ultimately the third, and then a final view before I move on. And I think from what I understand, you've already seen the car, so just consider it as a bonus. I forgot to mention that there are some little cosmetic blemishes. You'll see little rock chips here on the hood, right there. And then, I remember seeing some here on the right door. So, those were the most obvious. All right, so I've got the headlights on and I've got the fog lights on. So I'm gonna go inside and do the high beams and do the blinkers and emergency flashes. Moving on. Here we're going to do the startup test. So when I first click it on the accessory position, we should see all of the fault light indicator lights illuminate. That's showing that everything is working as far as on the instrument cluster. And then once the engine starts, once the self-diagnosis has completed its cycle, these lights should all turn off. Okay, so here we go. And then we're going to see how it starts as well. Okay, all the lights are illuminating there. Little warning sign saying that the hood is open, which I've got that open right now. I see the check engine light and I saw some other lights, so let's go ahead and just fire it up. Everything's on and lights are cycling on and now off. Okay. RPM is just over 500. And now what we're going to do is we're going to walk to the back, take a look at the exhaust. Now I can look at it while it's running. Looks like it's burning pretty clean. Good. All right, and then let's walk towards the engine bay area. And I'll just tell you what I check for when I do this inspection. One of the first things I look for is when I raise the hood, I want to make sure that the shock does support the weight of the panel. Also, I check the insulation here because I'm talking about rodents now. Rodents like to nest inside of the engine area, and for whatever reason, they like to chew at the material here. So I'm glad I didn't see any there. So given that that's still clean, I still like to look in the engine bay area. I go in the darkest and the deepest places. There's not much room to look, but I get my fluorescent light and look as best as I can. What I'm doing there is I'm looking for chewed up wires, right? They like coolant hoses as well. But yeah, so it checked out pretty clean. And then I've already checked the oil. Oil level looks good. I always like to look at the pulleys, make sure that I don't see any wobbling. They look pretty true, and I'm not hearing any bearing noise as well. You know, at some point I'm gonna let this car run for about 15 or 20 minutes after I shut the video off. I'll be checking other things, but what I like to do is get it nice and hot, and also that heat will heat soak the suspension. So when I go on the road test, it should loosen up anything that's kind of giving. So if there's some weaknesses there, I should be able to pick up on it. Again, I took a nice look of the ripped belt. Didn't see any signs of cracks. Hose is still pretty good. And I checked the coolant level and the brake fluid looks good. And we'll check the back side too as well. There's no dipstick for the transmission for me to check, so I can't comment on that. I'm not hearing any abnormal noises coming from the engine from the bottom or the top end. So far it's sounding pretty good. We want to the next step. And I did just a typical systems check where I drive hands-free, and I did notice that the vehicle does veer to the right, as we can see it happening now. Also, the tires do make excessive noise, and it's got the aftermarket setup. What else? Coming to a stop. I'm going to check the brakes here, and again, just moving slightly over to the right, but I don't think it's mechanical. I think it's more with the tires. Transmission shifted nice. Engine performance did very well. I didn't detect any misfires. AC's blowing, cold heater's good. Check the heated seats. That all operator wipers nice and clean. And I also ran the diagnostics, and there were no faults in the system. So I'm going to just wrap it up and head back to the dealership.